continuing on with our NHL offseason review series. We're finishing up the Central Division today, looking at the Dallas Stars. Can they get back to the Stanley Cup Final where they were just 2 seasons ago? What moves did they make to help accomplish that? What were their objectives? We'll discuss the Stars offseason coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're analyzing the Dallas Stars, which will complete our Central Division teams here for this series. Of course, we'll be moving back over to the Eastern Conference, looking at the Metropolitan Division coming up next here. So obviously, as I mentioned, we're looking at the offseason for the Stars. We're looking at what were their objectives, what players have come in, what players have gone out, what trades did they make, free agency and all that, and determining if their moves met their objectives and made them a better team going into next year. So first up, let's take a look at how they were impacted by trades and the expansion draft. Now in both of those scenarios, there wasn't a ton of activity. The only trade we saw out of Dallas this offseason was moving number 3 center Jason Dickinson to the Vancouver Canucks for a 3rd-round pick. He was a pending restricted free agent, needed a new deal, which he ended up getting with the Vancouver Canucks, and so he shipped out for a draft pick, and that's really all they've done for trades. When it comes to the expansion draft, they kind of, so you could almost say they get off easy in a sense. I mean, they did lose a good player, but that player may have departed via free agency anyway, but they signed, but pending UFA, Jamie Alexiak was discussing a contract and signed with the Kraken during that window that they were allowed to do that, so he counted as their expansion player selection. So obviously, if he was going to go anyway, then obviously it's nice not to lose an additional piece. So from that regard, they lose 2 players. But of course, there are other players that have gone in and out of this franchise when it comes to free agency. And of course, they had a lot of injuries they dealt with last year. So we're going to also touch on that. So what other players from last year's Dallas Stars team are no longer with the franchise? Well, a couple defensemen are no longer there besides Alexiak. They also lost Mark Pysyk and Sami Vatanen, who they chose not to re-sign either of those players. Pysyk headed over to Buffalo, and Vatanen at this point still has not signed with an NHL club, so we don't know what his future holds. So those 3 players on the blue line are all gone, so the blue line will look a little bit different this year. And of course, up front, Andrew Cogliano is also gone via free agency. He goes over to the San Jose Sharks. So not a ton of change when it comes to the Dallas Stars, but certainly a lot of depth pieces there that were not brought back through free agency and expansion. They had just as many players coming in as going out. They mostly brought in some experienced players and a little bit of youth as well. Now, they did bring in veteran defenseman Ryan Suter, who was surprisingly bought out from his contract with the Minnesota Wild. Of course, him and Zach Parise were both bought out simultaneously. Both were there a long time and big parts of that team, so we didn't see that coming. So they signed him to a 4-year deal, which was kind of surprising, to be honest. I mean, I know he can still play. I know he's certainly capable of playing top 4 minutes. But overall, to me, Ryan Suter, I just really didn't think would get that kind of term. I mean, that is a lot of term for a guy who was just bought out. He's obviously, 36 years old. He gets $3.65 million for 4 years. Also given, a form of a no-move clause. So that kind of ties them to him for an extended time. So hopefully things work out. I have no problem with the money. I have no problem with even with a no-move, maybe for the first year or something to that effect. But considering the defensemen that have been moved out, I mean, really, it is an upgrade. Like, it does help the blue line, along with the other guys we're going to talk about here that come in. But it's just, to me, I was just a little skeptical on the term that they gave Suter. But for the next year or two, I have no doubt he can play big minutes and be a good fit there. Now, they brought in young Finnish defenseman Jani Hakanpää, who finished up last year with the Carolina Hurricanes. He said one of the main attractive features to going to Dallas was not only the contract offer, but the fact that he could play with a lot of fellow countrymen from Finland. Obviously, they have a lot of Finnish players, and that was something that was attractive to him. So obviously, he's kind of emerged as a pretty solid young defenseman. Really, he's a guy that rarely makes mistakes. Does a lot of the little things right. He has good size. Like I said, he's not going to really wow you or going to leave you just with your jaw dropping with amazement or anything like that. But like I said, he's just a steady, calm defender that does his job, does the simple things right, and you just don't even notice him sometimes. And that's what you want sometimes when it comes to especially second and third pair defensemen, just to get out there, do your job, and get off the ice, switch it up. It's usually your higher end defenders that you see a little bit more of the wow factor from, especially on the offensive side of the puck. But Hakanpää is a pretty nice addition, in my opinion. They also brought in goaltender Braden Holtby, who was a kind of a questionable pickup after leaving Vancouver. I mean, they still have Ben Bishop, they still have Anton Khudobin, and they still have Jake Ottinger. Now, it is quite possible that Bishop may not play this year, so that part we understand. He was out quite a long time now. Did attempt to come back last year, but it didn't go well. So with his future being uncertain, but they still have Khudobin and Ottinger. So I wonder, though, if another goalie, and that would most likely be Khudobin, would end up getting moved. I mean, Jake Ottinger, to me, wouldn't go anywhere. He's their young goaltender that they're still hoping will become the starting goalie of the future. And, you know, I guess Khudobin kind of had an up and down year last year after some, you know, better years in the last couple of years before that. So it makes me wonder, though, if Holtby's there as insurance or what exactly they're going to do. I mean, Ottinger theoretically could go to the American Hockey League still. I just don't see how that would really be beneficial for him. So to me, it's just unclear on what their tandem is going to be. So it wouldn't be completely shocking if we see a trade where Holtby was signed to a new contract. They also brought in veteran center iceman Luke Glendening from Detroit. He gets a short-term deal as well to play in their bottom six. Before we complete the rest of this offseason review, we do need to pause for a moment and acknowledge our channel sponsor, Exter Smart Wallets. Top Shelf Hockey is proud to be sponsored by Exter. Forbes calls Exter the most successful smart wallet brand in the world. They certainly have high-quality products, high-grade leather. You can put all your cards in your wallet with RFID protection, and you can track it worldwide. That's the best part. You don't have to worry about losing your wallet and not being able to track it down. They have a great selection of products to choose from here, a variety of colors and styles, something to surely help for everyone. As you can see in the demonstration here for the product I have, this is a beautiful packaging, high quality. When you open it up, you get a high quality wallet with lots of slots for your cards. You have yourself a money clip if you want to carry cash on you here as well. And certainly, as you can see, the quality is outstanding. And here you can see the switch where you can help open up your cards. You just one little click and boom, everything fans out right in front of you. Easy to access. Your cards are protected. And here's the back where you have yet another slot. A terrific overall product, and I can't recommend these enough. Exter ships worldwide, and you can check out the link down below in the description as well as the pinned comment to buy yours today. So thanks very much for watching that promotional content. I greatly appreciate it. Let's get back into the Dallas Stars discussion. And they also brought in Michael Raffl, formerly at Philadelphia and Washington, also on a short-term contract, likely as well to play in their bottom six. Now, do the Dallas Stars still have unfinished business this offseason? Well, they do have some, and there's still a few things that we could see from this team heading into the rest of the offseason before training camp. For starters, there is some possibility we could see a trade, and possibly, and I stress possibly, on a guy like John Klingberg, because there is a lot of concerns they won't be able to afford to keep him when his contract expires next year. He is a pending UFA going into this upcoming season. They just handed out a monster contract to Miro Heiskanen, and between Esa Lindell being there as well on a, not a hefty contract, but, over $5 million. Can they really afford to increase the pay of John Klingberg as well? I mean, he's been an important offensive piece back there. I'm sure there's interest to keep him. I just know that there's, concern over cap issues. But they could have other players that are coming off the books that may not be back too. Like, they do have some other tough decisions to make, and I do think Klingberg would take precedence over some to try to retain him. Now, in the forward group, they do have Joe Pavelski as well as Radulov, both coming up on expiring deals as well. Radulov's been there longer, but it's fair to say Pavelski's been more productive. Radulov also had an injury-filled season last year, so it's really difficult to say if both of those guys came back, along with Klingberg. I mean, that's three fairly substantial pieces there that are all expiring. So, to me, if they could only bring back 2 out of 3, I would probably look at Klingberg and Pavelski myself, but I'm not sure how Jim Nill and the Stars are looking at things. Obviously, they might let this season kind of dictate that based on performance. It's really hard to say. And the other thing we don't know as well, between especially Pavelski and Radulov, who are much older than Klingberg, what kind of money are they going to be looking for on their next deal, right? That certainly will play a role here. They may have to take less money if they want to continue staying in Dallas and continue their careers. Where Klingberg is, he's not super young anymore, but he's still in a situation where I think it's fair to say his contract will go up, where with them it's a little bit questionable that it's likely going to come down a bit as they kind of enter those, final years of their careers. Radulov's going to be 35 now. Pavelski's 37, so hard to say how much playing time they have left in them. But they could all possibly negotiate contract extensions. We could see a move out of them, and it's really hard to say. But as far as the team being better, worse, or the same compared to what we saw last year, to me, I think this team has to be better. There's no way around it. Even though you look at the moves we talked about, it's not overly substantial. It's not like there's no big wow factors. You get like, oh, wow, this was awesome. Like, yes, like when Yanni Hakanpää is like your most probably exciting free agent signing. Like, you've had a fairly quiet year. No disrespect to him. I really appreciate his game and like him as a player. But, it's just not a substantial move. So at the same time, because of the injuries they went through last year, just by being healthy, theoretically, they should be better. I mean, that to me just makes sense. I mean, if Tyler Seguin can come back and play and be anywhere close to what he used to be, that's a major improvement. I mean, he sat out majority of last season recovering from surgery. He went through a big ordeal there. So to me, like, if he's back and healthy, and like I said, even if he's not quite as good as before, the surgery took a lot out of him, he's still going to provide a big spark. Same goes for Radulov, who missed a ton of time last year. Like, they have to be better just by having them being able to play. And you don't know what you're going to run into this year when it comes to injuries and all that, but still, it's a situation where they, like I said, they almost are better by default if they can stay healthy. So we'll have to see how everything goes. Otherwise, I mean, I guess, like I said, the other thing that we could see too is we could still see a goalie trade. We could see one of those pending UFAs either extended or moved. So I'm not sure that they have anything too crazy left here in their arsenal. They were heavily involved in Seth Jones trade talks before he ended up going to Chicago. Obviously, with Texas being the home state, there was a lot of interest for him to go there. But at the same time, it was just too much money, having to lock up Heiskanen and already being, a concern over being able to retain Klingberg. If they brought in Jones, there was just no way. It really would complicate all that. And I'm just not sure that keeping Jones over Klingberg, for example, really makes them a lot better. It would be marginal at best. So, it's hard to say, right? But I don't know that they're going to have a ton of more activity left in them going into training camp coming up here in about 5 or 6 weeks' time. So that's my analysis of the Dallas Stars offseason. I'd like to know what you think down below. With the moves they've made, are they a better team? Are they worse? Are they about the same? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts on what the moves they've made this offseason down in the comments. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.